It all started on a sunny Saturday morning when I was sipping coffee on my porch, minding my business like I always do. My porch is my sanctuary, a cozy spot with mismatched chairs, a few potted plants, and an old radio that hums classic rock. Nothing fancy, but it's homey. Cue Karen. Karen is the self-appointed queen of our HOA. She's the type who walks around with a clipboard and a Bluetooth headset like she's on a mission from God. She's not. She's just trying to regulate the color of everyone's mailbox and count your lawn gnomes. That morning, she strutted up my driveway like she owned it. "Excuse me," she said, already irritated, "but I've received multiple complaints about your porch setup. It's, how do I say this, unsightly. You're lowering the property values." I blinked at her. "Because I'm sitting on my porch? Because of how you're sitting. With that music and those chairs that don't match. It's all very biker bar." I took a long, obnoxious sip of my coffee. "Well, that's a new one. I'm going to have to ask you to take it down, or the HOA will be forced to take action." Now, I don't know what kind of action the HOA takes for enjoying a porch, but something in me snapped. If my porch had biker bar vibes, I figured, why not really commit? So the next weekend, I made a few calls. Enter the Iron Sprockets. They're a local bike gang. And not the scary kind, they're basically a bunch of retired mechanics and motorcycle hobbyists who host charity rides and cookouts. I knew the leader, Big Mike, from a community cleanup event last year. Told him what happened, and he said, "Say no more. We're coming." Saturday morning, I set out extra lawn chairs, tuned the radio to some good OL, AC, DC, and fired up the grill. At 10 a.m. sharp, the rumble started. 15 Harleys rolled into the neighborhood like thunder. The Iron Sprockets parked neatly on the street. No HOA rule violations here. Brought a cooler of sodas and sat with me on the porch. Leather jackets, sunglasses, and all. They were the nicest folks, helping neighbors carry groceries, fixing a kid's flat bike tire, even cleaning up after themselves. Karen nearly had a stroke when she saw them. She marched over, trembling with fury. "This is outrageous. You invited a gang into our neighborhood." Big Mike stood up slowly, towering over her. "Ma'am, we're just here for burgers and a good time. You want one?" Karen sputtered something about calling the board and stormed off. The best part? The next day, my neighbor Greg, who is on the HOA board, came by laughing. "She really tried to report you for a motorcycle invasion. We reminded her there's nothing in the rules about how many friends you can have over. Also, you raised our property values by fixing my fence yesterday. Thanks, by the way." From then on, I became something of a legend in the neighborhood. Porch nights turned into weekly gatherings, and Karen's power? Well, let's just say it started idling. And me? I still sit on that porch with my mismatched chairs and classic rock. Only now, I've got backup. A few weeks after the great porch party with the Iron Sprockets, things had quieted down. Karen went back to patrolling the sidewalks like a bored mall cop, and I kept doing my thing. Porch chillin', grillin', and vibin' to Lynyrd Skynyrd. But peace was short-lived. One morning, I found a bright orange notice taped to my front door. Notice of noncompliance. Unapproved structural additions, excessive noise, unauthorized gatherings. Apparently, my porch was now considered a structural nuisance. And guess who signed the notice? Karen, in cursive, with a heart over the I. This woman really tried to legally outlaw my chairs, my radio, and even my friends. But I wasn't going down easy. So I called in the big guns, my cousin Jenny. She's a local reporter with a love for community stories and a deep disdain for petty HOA drama. I told her everything, showed her the notice, even pointed out the potted plant Karen once told me had too much personality. Jenny laughed. "Oh, we're gonna run this." 2 days later, the town's local news site published the headline, "Small Town Porch Sparks Big Time Feud, HOA versus Local Hero." The story blew up. Comments were full of people defending me, mocking Karen, and begging for an invite to the next porch party. Even the mayor commented, "Sounds like the kind of porch I'd like to have a beer on." I was riding high on porch fame when I got the idea, let's make the porch a historical landmark. It started as a joke, but I made a change.org petition anyway. Protect Freedom of Porch, I called it. By the end of the week, we had 3,000 signatures, including half the neighborhood and at least 2 former mayors. One of the Sprockets made a custom wood sign that said, "The People's Porch, EST in spite of Karen, 2025, we hung it up, right above the grill. Karen tried one more time to have me removed from the HOA altogether. claimed I was creating a hostile living environment. But here's the twist. At the next board meeting, Greg, the fence neighbor, brought up a vote. A vote to remove Karen from the HOA board. It passed unanimously. The woman had been out Karen by democracy, biker diplomacy, and community barbecue. Now, my porch is on Google Maps. Literally. Chillest spot in town. Biker barbecue Thursdays. We even have a community schedule. Monday, coffee and classic rock Wednesday. Porch yoga with Miss Patty Friday. Grill and games Saturday. Sprocket Saturdays. Harley rides and burgers. Karen moved to the other side of the neighborhood. Still within glaring distance. But now she just shakes her head and keeps walking. And me? I'm just here, on the porch, living rent-free in Karen's mind. So by this point, the People's Porch had officially become a neighborhood institution. We had regulars. We had a schedule. We even had merch. Big Mike's niece printed shirts that said, "Good vibes only. HOA not included." Life was good. Too good, apparently. Because Karen, rebranded and recharged after months of quiet brooding, came back with a new mission: destroy the porch once and for all. Her new angle? City permits. She claimed our weekly gatherings now qualified as unregistered events and that we were violating some obscure ordinance about residential public spaces. She brought printouts to another HO meeting like she was arguing a Supreme Court case. She even had a color-coded binder. A binder, y'all. Technically, she said, adjusting her pearl necklace, this porch has become a venue, and you cannot operate a venue in a residential zone without a temporary event permit. According to Section 12.6b of the Municipal Code, ma'am, be serious. But fine. You want to play the legal game? So we got a permit. Actually, we got 3. For the porch, for a barbecue, and for a full-blown neighborhood festival. The first annual Porch Fest. We went all in. A local band played classic covers from the roof of Greg's garage. Kids had a lemonade stand and called themselves the Porch Punks. Big Mike raffled off a motorcycle helmet signed by all the Sprockets. Jenny, the reporter cousin, came back to cover it, again. And the real cherry on top? The mayor showed up. He walked up to the porch, grinning, and said, "So, where's Karen?" I nearly choked on my hot dog. He cut a literal red ribbon across the front steps and declared the People's Porch an unofficial symbol of community, resilience, and really good grilled corn. Karen was 3 houses down, standing on her lawn like a scarecrow, watching this all go down with the fury of 1,000 unused complaint forms. And guess what? After the festival, donations poured in. Enough for porch renovations, a new smoker for Big Mike, and, oh yeah, an official little free library shaped like a motorcycle helmet. Karen filed one last complaint after that. Something about excessive laughing and too much communal joy. It was denied. Now, Porch Fest is an annual thing. We've had guest speakers, food trucks, even a local indie film crew that shot a mini-doc called Porch Against the Machine. Karen? She stays inside on porch days. Her curtains twitch sometimes. People wave anyway. And me? I just lean back in my new Adirondack chair, sip sweet tea, and smile. Because nothing, and I mean nothing, brings a neighborhood together like one stubborn porch and a very determined Karen.